Okay, hello. My name is Angela Vincent, and this is my presentation for my capstone assignment. And I don't know exactly what's expected because there weren't a lot of instructions given. It just said to explore the contents of my paper and create this 10-minute oral video. So as you can see, I'm in my kitchen. It's been quite a journey the last 2 years with Toro, working from home and all the classes plus work and a life. So I'm feeling really grateful to be here at the end of this journey and getting to sort of synthesize all that I've learned and explored and really feel into what my next steps are as a MFT associate. I'm really excited about the next step, applying what I've learned and definitely diving more deeply into the theories and the modalities that resonated most with me during my time. There's certainly a lot to prepare for in terms of my exam someday. I'm in California, so I don't need to take that exam until the clinical exam until I have my hours done. So that's going to be several years away. But I will be starting to study for the law and ethics exam pretty soon. So without further ado, though, I will get to my paper, and I'm going to, best way I thought to do this was to share my screen and talk about my paper a little bit. So paper asked us to explore a couple things. One, well, I have to say I got a 65% on my clinical practice exam, so I have a little ways to go. I have to say I will definitely be studying more when the time comes. That's not really the purpose of this. So my personal theory of change and my therapeutic model of choice. So in a nutshell, my personal theory of change has really been influenced and informed by Carl Rogers. Just on my own throughout the last 2 years, I've read a lot of his material and really like practiced that with clients and really felt like that resonated most with me at this moment in my journey. Feels like kind of a foundational approach for me to that informs like how I want to work with clients and how I want to view therapy in general. So very client-centered, very person-centered. The three main conditions being unconditional positive regard, empathy, and authenticity or congruence, meaning the therapist is being congruent with who they are, they're being authentic with the client. I love this as like the basis of all my work with my clients. It's even been shown that these elements of a therapeutic relationship are more important than any one particular modality or intervention, that really this seeing the person as a whole human being is the most important thing. Like this quote says, for therapeutics to be effectively person-centered, it must involve an awareness and respect for the whole person, whose health is certainly more than his or her symptoms of illness and past medical history. So I find that I've worked, my sites were a hospice doing grief support and also at a substance abuse clinic. And so the grief work was much more person-centered and the substance abuse work felt more clinical. And so I think like bringing in this piece of treating the whole person beyond their symptoms and medical history is really fundamental to how I want to work with people. And in terms of modalities, or is that what therapeutic modalities, thank you, is emotionally focused therapy. So this is something that for me in a nutshell kind of encapsulates both the person-centered work and approach with like the way that I have felt I've received the most help in therapy, and also it's just sort of my nature. It resonates most with me to work from an emotional place rather than a cognitive place. Although obviously they interconnect. So I found a lot of research actually that brought together emotionally focused therapy and person-centered therapy, how it evolved really out of Carl Rogers' work. And here is a quote. EFT evolved out of the person-centered approach and emphasizes that psychotherapy is a process that is based in humans' potential for growth and creative actualization of their potential. That the main impetus for therapeutic change arises from the clients themselves, mobilized in a warm, accepting, empathetic relationship with the therapist, and supported by liberating therapeutic activities. So I loved this because there was this evidence out there that that emotionally focused therapy really is a derivative of the person-centered approach, and it really holds that as elemental to its practice, to its essence. That was really helpful for me to see. I know that EFT is usually like the gold standard for working with couples, but I also feel that it can apply to individuals, families, and things like that. I looked a lot into like the Center for Excellence in Emotionally Focused Therapy because I was looking into some trainings. And I learned that the basic tenets are emotional change is central to enduring change. One has to feel a feeling in order to change it. And that's interesting because Carl Rogers also says, like, in order for a client to change, they have to really be who they are. They have to be allowed to be who they truly are in the presence of a loving and empathetic witness. And only then can they really change. Like, until you accept who you really are, you can't really change anything. So I love that EFT really gets to that, like, who you really feel yourself to be, for better, for worse, all the in-betweens and nuances of that for a person, and really work from that level, like to be who you are, be accepted by someone for who you are, and then you can begin to make your changes that you want to make. Getting some typos here. I loved these questions at the end because they really apply to me, like working with diverse populations, because I'm a white person in Santa Cruz, California, and we have a majority white population. However, the clinic or the organization I'm working for after graduation is a nonprofit that takes insurance, and so we get a lot of diverse clientele, which is what I want. And I'll also be working 1 day a week in the South County, which is predominantly Latino. So my hope is to continue working with a diverse population. And what I think is so beautiful, like I state here about EFT, is that no matter if a client has a different idea, opinion, or experience, we really just focus on the client's emotions. And those are never wrong, they're never judged, and they can't be used against them. So considering the fact that emotions are universal, we all experience human emotions. And whether this goes down to the race thing too at the last question, no matter our socioeconomic status, our gender, our difference in opinions or life experiences, we can really relate to the human experience and the human emotions that arise. And so I love that approach because people don't have to change anything about themselves. We just get to work with the underlying core human emotions that we can all relate to. So it makes it really easy for me to empathize, validate, mirror a client, and work with them on that core level, because somewhere in me, certainly I have felt one of those emotions, at least. So I explain all that in here. And I found an article called Emotionally Focused Therapy with Culturally Diverse Couples. And this was cool because it explicitly went into this idea that EFT does well with diversity, even though, let's say, typically in Asian culture, people go less directly into emotions and really personal things like that. They focus maybe more on a cognitive level or more directive, short term, and not as deeply personal. However, I think that this quote kind of sums it up from this article. While typical multicultural recommendations and interventions may appear to conflict the EFT theoretical underpinnings of attachment theory and understanding of the importance of emotion are applicable across cultures, lending validity to the cross-cultural relevance of the approach. So in other words, even though a lot of what EFT does as its interventions may seem in conflict with certain cultures or certain people for certain reasons, the underpinnings, the underlying essence or truths about EFT are that it's based in attachment theory. It's a person-centered approach, and it's universal emotions everyone feels. So it can be relevant and it can be approachable and adaptable to whatever clients you're working with. My last bit is I did work with a client who's a 24 Latina female. She's Catholic, not super highly educated, lower middle class. She has anxiety, substance abuse issues, and we really have focused on her emotions and going back to her childhood, her attachment to her primary caregivers, how she felt as a child, and she's starting to make connections and see patterns and see the ways that her emotions trigger a reaction, which may trigger a thought or a behavior, and how when she can get in touch and actually recognize and feel her feelings, she can then slow down, bring conscious awareness to what the emotion is. Then she gets to choose from a place of intention about how she chooses to respond. That she doesn't have to continue to just react unconsciously to her emotions. She doesn't have to be run by her emotions like she was as a child, that she's now an adult and she has choices. So it's been a really beautiful experience with her, and it's gone really well. And I'll stop sharing my screen and just to say thank you for listening. And I'm actually doing this paper made me super excited about emotionally focused therapy, and I want to get some training in it after I graduate and just really learn more of the specific interventions and like especially working with couples. And I'm curious how the Gottman approach, which is something that I'm also interested in, like kind of blends well or complements or maybe doesn't with EFT. But it's definitely going to be something that I continue to explore and hopefully use with clients that want that kind of approach. And I also want to be adaptable and flexible and meet the client where they're at, which is what Carl Rogers and what this is really all about. It's like meeting the client where they're at and finding the pathway that leads them to their innermost resources of growth and health in their life. So thank you for everything.